Hi everybody, my name is Hannah and this is Pepper and Pine, and I have a watercolor paper comparison to share with you today. I've got 4 pads of paper here. They're all by Fabriano, but they are different weights and they are hot press and cold press. The first one I'm showing you is some cold press 90-pound watercolor paper. I love this paper. It is my go-to paper, but after this comparison, I have a new go-to paper. It has a nice rough finish and I like it for most of our projects. The next paper I want to show you is 90-pound hot press. The difference between the two papers are that the hot press is going to have a smooth finish. Now 90-pound is kind of a lightweight watercolor paper, so this is going to do really well for typical watercoloring, but not so well for wet on wet watercoloring. The next one I want to show you is 140-pound hot press paper. This is also going to have a smooth finish, but it's going to be a lot thicker, a lot more durable. It's going to be able to hold up to more water. It still will tear a little bit if it is too wet. And the last paper I want to show you is the 140-pound cold press paper. This has become my new favorite go-to watercolor paper, and it's also my favorite go-to paper for a lot of our other projects as well. You can see it's a lot thicker, it holds up well to wet on wet watercoloring, and it also works well for a multitude of other projects. All right, so I'm going to cut down our paper to 4.5 inches by 6 inches so that we can test the paper out. Next, I'm going to use my painting board for all of our watercoloring for today. I'm also using some artist tape, or you can also use some washi tape if you'd like. You don't have to use tape, but I'm going to tape everything down. I'm also going to label everything. That way we can keep track of all the paper that we have. I'm going to be watercoloring on dry paper. I'm also going to be wetting the paper first for some wet on wet watercoloring. To do this, I've got a sponge here. It's already moist, it's pretty well saturated, and I'm going to use it in order to wet the paper. You can also use a spritzer if you'd like, and then just use the sponge to mop up any extra water. You can see that it is glistening, but it is not pooling with water. And if it does get too dry, you can always add a little bit more water by using the sponge or a little spritzer. I've already mixed some Stockmar watercolor paints, and I'm going to use that as well as this wide brush. That wide brush is typically used in kindergarten Waldorf schools. I'm going to use it to make this beautiful rainbow effect with our watercoloring. So I'm going to just go from a light yellow all the way up to a blue purple. And you can already see the difference between the two sets of paper. The wet on wet has a lot more ability to blend with the colors, but it also can pool in certain places, whereas when you're just doing wet on dry, you're less likely to have that happen. Here's a close-up after I've added a little bit of salt. I just did that because I really like the way that the salt interacts with the watercoloring. And once that's all set, I'm going to let it dry completely before we examine each of those papers, and we can see which one held up well to the water and how it just looks overall. So after several minutes of drying, I'm going to go ahead and remove that tape. It tore a little bit on this one that had the wet on wet. That was unfortunate. So you can see that it does have a little bit of rippling, and that's because this is a lighter weight watercolor paper as opposed to the 140-pound watercolor paper. You can see that it retains a bit more of its straightness. It's a lot thicker. They both feel pretty good, but for wet on wet, I would advise going with the heavier weight paper if possible. Let's look at the 140-pound and the 90-pound hot press paper. This paper is going to be smooth, and I don't typically like the smooth finish for watercoloring. I prefer the rough finish. It's just a personal preference, but the smooth finish is really great for other art mediums. We typically do a lot of pastels and color pencils, and actually the smooth watercolor paper works really well for those projects. This paper is mid-range for quality as well as price. I've been using it for many years and I love it. I typically use the 90-pound watercolor paper that is cold press. I'm really excited to upgrade to the 140-pound paper because after this comparison, that became my new favorite. Don't forget to check out the blog post that accompanies this video for more information as well as pictures of the projects that we did. If you'd like to see some of our other watercoloring projects, you can tap on the screen right now. And don't forget that you can see what we're doing on a daily basis by finding me on Instagram at Pepper and Pine.